Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita chapter 18 verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasasya Mahabaho Tattvam Ichyame Vedatum Tyagasya cha Rishikesha Pritakeshi Nishudana.
Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyasa. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses.
Verse 2. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmyaknam Karmanam Niyamsa Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Prahushtyagam Vichakshanaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyasa. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga.
Verse 3. Tyajyam dosha vadityake karma prahurmanishinaha yajna dana tapa karma natyajyan iti chapare.
Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned.
Verse 4. Nichayam shrinu me tatra tyagye bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyagra dividha samprakirtitaha.
Sorry about that. O best of Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds.
Verse 5. Yajna dana patapa karma natyajam karyam ivatat yajno danam tapaschaiva pavanani maneshinam.
Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed, indeed. Sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even great souls.
Verse 6. Etani api tu karmani sangam tyaktva phalam nicha kartavya niti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam.
All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Prthu. That is my final opinion.
Text 7. Niyatasya tu sanyi asyaha karma no napapadite diyate mahatatsya parityagas tamasa parikirtitaha.
Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Verse 8. Dukhamiti eva yat karma kaya klesha bhayatriya jet sakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhet.
Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation.
Verse 9.
Hare Krishna, Jolly Mataji. We seem to have lost Jolly Mataji. Let me just have a look if she's still here as a participant. Yeah, she's here and she's unmuted. Anyway, let me, I'll recite till she comes back. Karyamiti eva yat karma nityatam priyatirjana sangam chatva phalam chaiva satyagha satviko mataha.
O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, Prabhuji, could you please move up or down? Oh, okay, thank you. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruits, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness.
Nadveshti akushalam karma kashule nanu sajjate tyagi sattva samavishtu medhavi chena samsayaha.
I don't know what happened, sorry.
The intelligent renounces situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work.
We are text number 11, Jolly Mataji.
11, sorry, it's right up. I've got 18, 12. Oh yeah. Nahi deha brita sankyam tyaktum harmania shishataha yastu karma phala tyagi satyagi tyavidhiyate.
It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, but he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who is truly renounced.
Text 12. Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividham karmana phalam bhavati atyaginam pritya natu sanyasinam kriptrachet.
For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed.
Text 13. Sorry.
Oh. Wait, am I doing text 13 or
12?
12.
Okay, thank you. For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy.
Text 13. Panchaitani mahabaho karanani nibodhame sankhya kirtanti pruktani siddhayi sarvakarmanam.
O mighty Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me.
Text 14. Ahistanam tata karta karanam cha pratagvidam vividhascha pratakshchaista daivam chaivatra panchamam.
The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. These are the 5 factors of action.
Verse 15. Sarirabham mahobhiryat karma parvate naraha nayam vabiritam va panchate tasya hetavaha.
Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors.
Verse 16. Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tu yaha pasyati yankta buddhitvam nasa pasyati durmatihi.
Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are.
Verse 17. Yasya nahankstro vavo badhir yasya na lipyate hatvapin saimam lokan nahanti nana nivadyate.
One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions.
Verse 18. Jnanam geyam parijnata trivida karma kodana karanam karma karteti trividham karma sangraha.
Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the 3 factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the 3 constituents of action.
Verse 19. Jnanam karma chakarta cha trihaiva guna vedataha prokriti prochiyate guna sankyane yata vakchuru tanyapi.
According to the 3 different modes of material nature, there are 3 kinds of knowledge: action and performer of action. Now hear of them from me.
Verse 20. Sarva bhuteshu yanekam bhavam avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajnanam vidi satvikam.
That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness.
Verse 21. Trivananti utu jagyanam nana bhavan prathagvidam veti sarveshu bhuteshu tajnanam vidi rajasam.
That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion.
Verse 22. Yattu Krishna vad ekashmin karya sanktam ahaitukam atat vartavad alpasya pamsya tamasam udhartanam.
And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work is the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness.
Verse 23. Niyatam sangarahitam aragadvesha takritam afala presuna karma yatat sarvikam uchyate.
That action performed in illusion, in disregard of spiritual injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Verse 24. Yat tu kemipshuna karma sanghar Sanhankarena vapunaha kriya bahula yasam tatrajasam udharatam.
Oh,
24.
oh, okay. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion.
Text 25. Anubandham krisham himsam anapekshya chapu paurusam mahadadabhyate karma yatattamasam uchyate.
One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness.
Verse 26. Mukcha sangunaham vadi drishti usahav samam manvitaha siddhiya siddhur nirvikaraha karta sattvika uchyate.
One who performs his duty without association with the modes of nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness.
Verse 27. Ragi karma phala prepshur lubdhoham satmako suchihi harsa sakalvita karta rajasa parikirtitaha.
The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance.
Did you read the right one there?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
The worker who is
27. It's 27,
sorry.
isn't it?
Yeah.
The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion.
Verse 28. Ayukta prakrita stabdha sato nishkrito lasaha vishadi diga shrutascha karta tamasa uchyate. 28.
Have we lost Yash?
Have we lost you, Yash?
Yeah, he seems to.
All right, I'll read it. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance.
Verse
Krishna,
29.
sorry, I think I got kicked out of the meeting.
All right, Yash, no problem. You can follow on.
That happened to me earlier on, don't worry. Verse 29. Buddhir vidam drishteshchaiva gunastatri vidham shrinu prosyamanannam asya sena praktvina dhananjana jaya dhananjana.
O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature.
Verse 30. Pravritim cha nivritim cha karya karya bhaya bandham moksham chaya veti buddhi sapata satviki.
O son of Prthu, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness.
Verse 31. Yaya dharmam adharmamscha karyam chakaryam evacha ayatavat prajanati buddhi saparta rajasi.
But that determination by which one holds fast.
Yeah, it's O son of Prthu. Text 31.
Sorry. O son of Prthu, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice,
No,
and
Yash.
which
No,
I
Yash.
think you lost it there. It's 31.
31.
Yash.
31,
Yeah,
the first
31.
sorry. O son of Prthu, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion.
Verse 32. Adharmam dharmam itya maniya tasma sarvatam vapiritamscha buddhisa pratatamisi.
That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion, under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance.
Text verse 33, sorry. Drityaya dharaye mana prinendriya kiryaha yogina vyabhikacharinya driti saprata satviki.
O son of Buddha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness.
Verse 34. Yaya tu dharma karmatan ditya dharaya terjuna prasangena palakanshi Diti sapartarajasi.
But that determination by which one holds fast to future results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna.
Verse 35. Yaya swapnam bayam sokam vishadam madam evacha na vinonshiti durmedha drishti sapartatamasi.
And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligible determination, O son of Prthu, is in the mode of darkness.
Verse 36. Sukham have I lost it? Oh yeah, 36. Sukham tvavidyami trividham shrinu me bharatar sabha abhyasad remati yatra dukhatam chanigachiti.
O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress.
Verse 37. Yatada grevisham eva parinam Trito pamam tatsukam satvikam proktam atma buddhi pasadajam.
That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness.
Verse 38. Vishayendraye samyogad yatat agre mritopanam pamam pariname visham eva tatsukam rajasam smritam.
That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion.
Verse 39. Yadagreya kanubandescha sukham mohanam atmanaha nidralasya pranadotam tattamasam udharatam. Hare Krishna.
And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you very much,
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Jolly Mataji, and thank you for the recitation, Yash. Jolly Mataji, I can see your pronunciation is getting better all the time. Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
I'm learning, Prabhu.
Very nice. Nice to see that.
Thank you.
So welcome everyone to today's chat session. I see it's all our regulars. It's wonderful to see you all again. And if anyone's joining us for the first time, warm welcome. So today we'll proceed with chapter 18, text number 2. We'll start off by reciting the Mangala Charanam prayers. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Asyacha Tishatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we continue with chapter 18. Yesterday we made a start with Divya Gaurangi Mataji, who gave a very nice synopsis. She gave a link to the previous chapter. And essentially she was saying that, as Prabhupada stated, the Bhagavad Gita has been finished in the first 17 chapters. And now it's time for a summary. And it starts off with Arjuna asking the Lord a question about renunciation and sannyas. And in one sense, this is very similar to the beginning of chapter 2. In the beginning of chapter 2, Arjuna asked the Lord, Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" So it's the nature of the conditioned soul to be forgetful of our eternal constitutional position and our duty. So we require to be reminded. So this chapter 18 is reminding us of the essence of what's been spoken previously. And this particular subject matter, the distinction between renouncing activity or renouncing the fruits of activities, is fundamental to the path of spiritual perfection. So we'll be focusing on that, and we will see this particular section that we are doing, which ranges from text number 1 to 12 is called Freedom from Bondage through Karma Yoga. And the first verse is the question, and then text 2 to 6 is Krishna is going to define what is sannyas and what is tyaga. And then Krishna is going to give his 2 opinions on tyaga and then his own opinion. 2 opinions mean, what opinions do contemporary people have on this? And then the Lord will give his own opinion. So this is the context of this beautiful section of verses. So the verse is Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sanyasam Kavayo Vidhu Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Prabhustyagam Vichakshanaha. Word for word synonym, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Kamyanam, with desire, Karmanam, of activities, Nyasam, renunciation, Sanyasam, the renounced order of life, Kavayaha, the learned, Vidhu, no, Sarva, of all karma activities, Phala, of results, Tyagam, renunciation, Prahu, call, Tyagam, renunciation, Vichakshanaha, the experienced. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise called renunciation, tyaga. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the injunction of Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. This will be made clear in the next verses. In the Vedic literature, there are many prescriptions of methods for performing sacrifice for some particular purpose. There are certain sacrifices to perform to attain a good son or to attain elevation to the higher planets. But sacrifices prompted by desires should be stopped. However, sacrifice for the purification of one's heart or for advancement in the spiritual science should not be given up. So very interesting question and wonderful, interesting response by the Lord. And actually the question being posed has been one that's been debated among transcendentalists for some time. The later verses, the Lord will explain some of these opinions. But essentially, the debate is about which is more powerful, which is more conducive for spiritual advancement. Is stopping activities more powerful and conducive? Or is continuing with activity, but giving up the results of the activities more powerful? This is the essence of what's being debated. Now, there are a class of philosophers or yogis who quite firmly believe that the only way to perfection is to give up all activities, and that is to take sannyas. And in these traditions, we see it is the norm that those who embark on the spiritual path, they leave home, they go somewhere, and the purpose is to stop activity. And why do they believe so? Because their conclusion is that for every action, action means activity, there is a reaction. Reaction means karma. And karma means you have to take birth again to finish off that karma. And this is why we've been in this material world for so long, just coming back and coming back. This whole cycle of reaping karma and paying for that karma, that's the endless cycle. So what is the solution then? If activity leads to karma and karma leads to rebirth, then the solution is to stop activity. But there is some fault in this conclusion. Who would like to say or give some reasons why this conclusion is faulty?
Because it's difficult for people to give up action.
Very good, Jayashri Mataji. That is a very good reason. The nature of the soul is the soul always has desires. And to fulfill those desires has to be followed by some activity. One cannot stop desires. This is the conclusion. Although such yogis and philosophers think that they can. Anyone can think of any other reason.
Prabhuji, I think another reason will be like there is no, like in this philosophy, there is no way of getting out. So you are just blocking. There is no other solution. So you are just blocking the solution. There is a solution, but you're not getting it. You're not finding that solution to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Rupa Mataji, that's very good. I think what you're essentially saying, well, you're missing a solution. And what is that solution?
Obviously, Prabhupada said Yukta Vairagya. So all activities, everything. Mad, the verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Mam Namaskuru, that verse, Mad Yaji Mam Namaskuru. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever, everything, do it for me. So that's the solution, to do everything for Krishna, giving up the results of the activities to Krishna.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add anything?
A human being cannot stay without doing some work. He has to continue doing work all the time.
Yes, correct. So a few reasons why that conclusion is faulty. The first thing is that not all actions receive karma. As Krishna says, there are different types of action. Forbidden action, action without karma. So there are certain actions that one does not get karma. And, we've been speaking about that for a long time, and Rupa Mataji has basically explained that the action done for the pleasure of Krishna in a certain consciousness, there's no karma. And we see, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Many a yogi has tried to give up activity. And we can see this in India so much, Even some of the politicians now come in saffron. They go with the intention of giving up activity. But eventually where they land up is either doing some philanthropic work, like opening up hospitals, schools, getting into some social movement or something. And we see this all the time happening. These so-called renunciants, they come back because they realize they can't stay without activity. And even with, yogis, there are famous yogis, some who have been meditating underwater for thousands of years. The body has become almost scaly. And they see some fish copulating, finished. So that's not the answer. So Prabhupada gives the imperative, the solution in the purport. Srila Prabhupada says, the performance of activities for results has to be given up. The inference there is not activities that we have to do, but the performance of activities for results. And Prabhupada quotes what people are accustomed to, performing activities for some result. And Prabhupada talks about the results that people get sometimes for a good son, and for elevation to the heavenly planets and so on. The result that is for oneself or for one's own benefit or gratification, that is not good. But in one sense, sadly, this is what the Vedas promote, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Dharma, that you should do all of these activities for economic development, for sense gratification, for Dharma, religiosity, or liberation. So we shall be discussing this particular point, and as we were reading the translations, we can see how nice responses and answers the Lord is giving. But we'll just briefly, give an overview of this. Srila Prabhupada said the secret to success is that we have to learn the art of touching water without getting wet. Meaning, how to work without becoming entangled in karma. Now, people have, like all of us, it must be a constant dilemma for us, isn't it? It's a constant challenge. We think, it's so hard. We work and, we get some result, and, we become attached. We become attached. Although it may seem so simple not to be attached to the results of the activity, if we are honest with ourselves, it is a struggle for the conditioned soul. So rather than thinking in terms of how not to act, the way we need to think is in terms of a consciousness shift. It's not so much about the activity. It's about the internal state of mind, which changes the activity. And we'll try and talk a little bit about that. And probably the best way to do it is to give an example. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 4th canto, there is very nice description about the activities of Maharaj Prthu. And in the 22nd chapter, verse 51, there's one beautiful verse describing the activities of Maharaj Prthu. Maharaj Prthu completely dedicated himself to be an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, transcendental to material nature. Consequently, all the fruits of his activities were dedicated to the Lord, and he always thought of himself as the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of everything. If we analyze this verse, there is deep meaning and deep personal instruction for us contained here. Because this principle of sannyas and renunciation is just fundamental to our spiritual life. Prabhupada says, spiritual life means becoming detached from the material and becoming attached to the spiritual. So we'll read a bit more. This is a picture of Maharaj Prthu. He was married with a queen, and he ruled a kingdom. So he was, in one sense, in a far more potentially entangling position than we are in our ordinary lives. So let's just read what Srila Prabhupada describes about the consciousness of Maharaj Prthu. And this is the purport. The life and dedication of Maharaj Prthu in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead serve as a good example of karma yoga. The term karma yoga is often used in Bhagavad Gita. And herein Maharaj Prthu is giving a practical example of what karma yoga actually is. This is what we seek in our lives. Philosophy is good, but it's when we see the philosophy being practically applied, that's when it comes alive and relevant for us. So Prabhupada is saying nicely, he's giving a practical example of what karma yoga actually is. The first requirement for the proper execution of karma yoga is given herein. Phalam brahmani sannyasa or vinyasya. One must give the fruits of his activities to the Supreme Brahman, Param Brahman, Krishna. By doing so, one actually situates himself in this renounced order of life, sannyas, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada quotes this verse that we are reading today. Giving up the fruits of one's activities to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called sannyas. And then Prabhupada quotes this verse. Then Prabhupada goes on to explain something very interesting. The word nirvisangaha, uncontaminated, is very significant because Maharaj Prthu was not attached to the results of his activities. In this material world, a person is always thinking of the proprietorship of everything he accumulates or works for. That is us. We have a car, we think this is my car. We have a house, we very much in the consciousness that this is our house. We have possessions, this is ours. We have family members, this is ours. So our consciousness is very much one of proprietorships. And that is the result of our work. Just like we work, we get money, we buy a house, we get work, we get money, we buy a car, we get so many possessions come. When the fruits of one's activities are rendered to the service of the Lord, one is actually practicing karma yoga. Anyone can practice karma yoga, but it is especially easy for the householder who can install the deity of the Lord in the home and worship him according to the methods of bhakti yoga. This method includes 9 items: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping the deity, praying, carrying out orders, serving Krishna's friend, and sacrificing everything for him. So Prabhupada is saying something very important here. Previously, where we think we are the proprietor, we are the center, we shift it. And for a householder, well, how does that shift come? We make the deity the center. This house belongs to Radha and Krishna, or Gaur Nitai, or the deity. The bhoga that we're buying for the pleasure of the deity. We're cleaning the house, we're cleansing the temple of the deity. So Prabhupada is giving some very practical ways by which this consciousness shift can happen. And then Prabhupada talks about something very interesting. He says about broadcasting this message throughout the world. And Prabhupada is saying, in one's home or in a temple, the deity is considered the proprietor of everything. And everyone is considered the deity's eternal servant. I remember once in my early days in Krishna consciousness, I was talking to another devotee friend who was more advanced. I was telling him, he asked, what did you do today? He said, I had to vacuum the house and I spent half the day cleaning and I'm just like, I'm tired, it was like so frustrating. And the devotee says, you know why it is frustrating? It's because you're separating the activity from Krishna. If you had the consciousness that this cleaning, this vacuuming and everything, you were doing it because the deity is a proprietor, you wouldn't feel frustrated. Then it becomes yoga, karma yoga. That really stuck in my consciousness, and it has stuck there ever since. The Lord is transcendental, for he's not part of his material creation. You can read on. I'm just so conscious of time, it's already 8:36. Anyway, you can read this purport, but later on the purport goes on to explain or crystallize this point even deeper. He says, in Krishna consciousness, The results of one's activities depend on the will of the Supreme Person. Indeed, in all cases, the result is not dependent on one's own personal dexterity, but is completely dependent on the will of the Supreme. This is the real significance of Phalam Brahmani Sannyasa. A soul dedicated to the service of the Lord should never think of himself as the personal proprietor or the superintendent. The subtle difference Prabhupada is making in this purport here is move away. Even if you can't think of the Lord as proprietor, just understand that this fruits of activities that we are receiving, this is not by our own efforts. It's only if Krishna willed it. It's only if Krishna empowered us to do it could we have got the result. So how can we claim proprietorship if we are not the chief agent? It's only the chief agent of the activity that can claim the proprietorship. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, just think about this consciousness that you have. And if one can think like this, that brings about the consciousness change. And this is how we come to the point of giving up the results of our activities. It is more a consciousness shift than an activity. If we are not the doer, how can we claim proprietorship? And in the following verse, it is explained there. Maharaj Prthu was very opulent due to the prosperity of his entire empire, remained at home as a householder, since he was never inclined to utilize his opulences for the gratification of his senses. He remained attached exactly like the sun, which is unaffected in all circumstances. In the purport, Prabhupada explains, sun. The sun is shining, and it's shining everywhere. The sun is even touching urine. The sun rays are touching stool that's been passed on the ground. The sun rays is touching everything, but by touching the stool or the urine, the sun does not become contaminated. It does not become contaminated. The same way, one who is working with a certain type of consciousness, although one is doing activities, there is no contamination. One does not get affected. We can expand on that. That also leads very much to the peace formula, which is given in chapter 5, text 29, Bhaktaram Yakyatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, Jatva Mam Santim Richate. That one who works in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Prabhupada says, this is the peace formula, recognizing who is the ultimate beneficiary, who is the benefactor and well-wisher. And I just want to conclude today's session because it's such an auspicious day today. Today is the appearance day of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Srila Narottam Das Thakur is one of our great acharyas coming in our lineage after the Goswamis. And Srila Narottam Das Thakur's contribution to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is unparalleled. Well, it's great. It's very, very great. And many of the songs or Vaishnava songs are compositions of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. In one purport, Srila Prabhupada says, these songs of Narottam Das Thakur, they are like two particulars, Pratana and Prema Chandrika. These are non-different from Vedas. They're equivalent to the Vedas. So just briefly, I will say something about the life of Srila Narottam Das Thakur because of time. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, he appeared as the son of a king. And he was known as Sri Thakur Mahasaya. And from the very beginning, he showed all the bodily symptoms of a Mahapurusha, an exalted divine person. And there are certain particulars He had long arms. When one's arms come below one's knees, that's a very auspicious sign. He had a deep navel. He had a golden complexion. He had beautiful eyes shaped like lotus petals. And in school, he was known as a Shruti Dara. He was able to memorize whatever he heard. And although he quickly mastered the Sanskrit and the Vedas, he hankered to serve Krishna. This didn't appeal to him. And he was a lifelong brahmachari. And by the mercy of the holy name of Gaur Nitai, Narottam became completely detached. He left his opulent family and he ran to Vrindavan. And there he took Diksha from Sri Lokanath Goswami, and then he took Shiksha from Jiva Goswami. I will just mention two pastimes of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, which are described in the Prem Vilas. So once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing through a district called Tanai Natashala, and he was dancing ecstatically in Kirtan. And while he was dancing, he began to call out, Narottam, Narottam, Narottam. And everyone was perplexed. Who is this Narottam that Mahaprabhu is chanting about? And when Lord Nityananda asked him why he was calling out, Mahaprabhu answered. And he told Lord Nityananda, my Lord, you do not know your own glories. When we went to Jagannath Puri, you shed tears of divine love day after day. I managed to capture your divine love and save it. Now I wish to keep it here by the Padmavati river for Narottam Das. So what Mahaprabhu is saying is the prema of Lord Nityananda, he captured it. And now he was saving that prema. And how was he saving it? He was going to keep it in the river Padmavati, someone called Narottam. Then Mahaprabhu went on to explain that the Padmavati river, there's a place called Kutubur, where he bathed and sang and danced in ecstasy. So in particular, in this Padmavati river, Mahaprabhu went to this place called Kutubur. And there he sang and he danced in ecstasy. And then he called out to the river. He said, "Oh Padmavati, take my love," this love he had, this prema, and he said, "Keep it. When Narottam comes and bathes here, give it to him." And then the Padmavati river inquired, how I shall recognize this Narottam? And Mahaprabhu said, you will know it is Narottam, for when he enters your water, you will immediately overflow. So the place where Mahaprabhu placed his prem for Narottam's sake was later given the name Prematali. And one can actually go there. So when Narottam was 12 years old, he had a dream. And in that dream, Lord Nityananda Prabhu told him to bathe in the Padmavati and take the prema, which has been stored for him there. So after he had this dream, he went the next day to the Padmavati. And as soon as he put his foot in the water, what happened? The river started to overflow. Then the Padmavati remembered Mahaprabhu's words. And that prema, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked her to store, and which she had been safeguarding, she gave that prema to Narottam. And then Narottam, from that day, he completely changed. He just became completely immersed in Krishna prema. And one can read about these activities. Another wonderful pastime, which I always find so relishable, is how Narottam took initiation from his spiritual master, Lokanath Goswami. And this is also described in the Prem Vilas. So Lokanath Goswami is considered to be one of the personal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, he was the first Gaudiya Vaishnava to be instructed by the Lord to go to Vrindavan, along with Burgaba Goswami. And Lokanath Goswami, he set the standard for worship in a spirit of renunciation while in the Dham. So, but he had taken a vow that he will never take any disciples. And Narottam hearing about Lokanath Goswami, he made a vow that he will take initiation only from Lokanath. So here we had this paradox. The Guru saying, I'll never take a disciple. The disciple saying, I will never take anyone by that spiritual master as my Guru. So Narottam was thinking how to receive, and he went to Lokanath Goswami, and Lokanath was very kind to him, but says, I can't. I'm not decided not to accept any disciples. So what did Narottam do? So every day when Lokanath Goswami would do his morning oblations, where he would pass a stool and urine, and then go away after washing, Narottam would go there every day and clean the place very nicely. Very nicely he would clean. And when Lokanath Goswami would come back, he would think, what is going on here? So this was happening every day. So one day Lokanath Goswami decided to see, what is going on here. So he hid. And then Lokanath Goswami saw what Narottam was doing, going every day and cleaning. And the moment he saw there, he tried to stop him because he saw he was sweeping the place and cleaning, and he was so happy doing the service. And when Lokanath Goswami stopped him, he said, no, this service is the power that will help me to attain my Lord's lotus feet. And he cried torrents. He cried torrents. And when he saw Narottam's humility, his heart softened, and he decided to give Narottam initiation. And from that time, Narottam, with great enthusiasm, with great devotion, he served his Guru Maharaj, Lokanath Goswami. And Lokanath Goswami gave him a beautiful mantra by which Narottam got the great mercy. So these are just two pastimes. There are many pastimes of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. I have a Kindle account. This morning I went and bought this beautiful book written by Sitala Mataji about the life and teachings of Narottam Das Thakur, and I'm hoping I'll get some time to read it. It's very purifying to read about Narottam Das Thakur. So I'll stop here. Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki jai. Are there any questions, comments, or reflections that anyone has?
I think it's quite a lot of things to digest. This beautiful nectarian story you told us, Prabhuji. It's so sweet story. We need more pastime stories.
Yes, we sort of need the philosophy, and we need the pastimes. Philosophy by itself is not so appealing. Pastimes are, but to understand the pastimes in the right spirit, we need to understand the philosophy. Or we'll
Yeah, you have to connect it, don't you?
We have to do both.
Yeah, I know. It's so beautiful, though. Honestly, you have got it on your fingertips. It's beautiful.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any reflections? Anyone? Was there anything particularly said or discussed today that resonated with any of you? Or really?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, my humble obeisances. Talking about philosophy and pastime, I would say that for the philosophy, I remember two more verses, like the 529 piece formula. I remembered Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjitama gridhakasya swidhanam, which means everything belongs to Krishna. So that if we have this Ishavasya mood all the time, so then your house is a temple, your heart is the temple, your body, everything is Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. So that mood, that consciousness is very much required for karma, for whatever activities we are doing in the world. I remember that, as well as I remembered another verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Yagyarthat karmano anyatra lokayam karma bandhana tadartham karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. Again, that means, in the mood of sacrifice, in the mode of yagya, do your work. So I remember that as well. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Beautiful reflections, Rupa Mataji. And I like the point you made about the Ishavasya principle from the Sri Ishopanishad.
Yes.
Nothing belongs to us. Wonderful reflections. Thank you for sharing those. And those wonderful.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So I remembered another verse from the Bhagavatam, which is if we had that consciousness all the time when in the particularly linked to our house, is Vasudeva Parveda, Vasudeva Parmukha, Vasudeva Pariyoga, Vasudeva Parkriya, Vasudeva Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Paratapa, Vasudeva Parodharma, Vasudeva Paragati. So everything is belonging to Vasudeva, it's all his. And if we work with that consciousness in the house, then we would never think of ourselves as proprietors, isn't it?
Yes, beautiful verse you quoted, Mataji, from the first canto. Yes, Vasudeva is everything. And everything should be offered to him.
Yes.
Wonderful verse. Wonderful reflection. Thank you for sharing that.
I like Narottam Das Thakur's pastimes you described, because for him, the detachment just came naturally. He didn't have to work at it because of the higher taste. Detachment just came. It wasn't an effort, and there was no resentment linked to it. When we force detachment on ourselves, then sometimes we build resentment in the long term, and it's not very sustainable detachment.
Yes.
But it just comes naturally.
That's a very good point you make, Mataji, and that's a consistent point Srila Prabhupada makes, and this is a consistent point in our Vaishnav culture, that we don't strive eternally, externally, or extraneously for detachment. It just comes naturally by becoming engaged in the service of the Lord. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Gyanati Asubhaigrakyam Janat Chayad Ahoitukam. It comes naturally. So very good point you made it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Dandavat pranams to you. Wonderful.
Dandavat pranam Prabhu.
So much. Yes, making the deity the center of the household. Although we had the deity back in Africa, only when we came to London in the Association of Devotees, particularly Satyanarayan Prabhu and Madhvi Mataji, that we learned how to make the deity the center. So we remain grateful to the devotees, especially these two exalted souls who are still guiding us. And I believe they are on the call today as well.
Oh, beautiful.
That,
I saw Satyanarayan Prabhu the other day. He was here. Yeah.
Yes, and the wonderful lila of Narottam Das Thakur showing us how we may act to please the Guru. It's so wonderful. I think starting from the lockdown last March, we are coming nearly to a year. I would like to express my deep gratitude to devotees like yourself who have taken upon the task of bringing the wonderful message that Prabhupada labored so hard to give all of us. I remain grateful, and I take the dust of the lotus feet of all the devotees assembled here. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept ours, Prabhu. Yes, they said, there may be a speaker, and the speaker may be able to say so much, but unless there's an audience, there is no, there's no interaction. So it's really so amazing. All of you, I offer my humble obeisances to all the devotees who come here consistently, day after day, with dedication, wanting to worship the Lord through the intelligence and studying Bhagavad Gita. And you in particular also, and Prema Vilas Mataji, for being such dedicated members of the chat team. Hare Krishna. Any other reflections or comments? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Panchakalpataruyascha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura
Thank
Premanande.
you.
Hare
Hari
Krishna,
Bol.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.